Welcome to the Growth and Banter podcast. My name is Blake McCullough, CEO and founder of GMS Media Group, one of Australia's leading digital advertising and advisory firms. This podcast is for anyone looking to learn the insights and strategies of industry leaders and how to live a successful life. Today, we're joined by Jane Liu, CEO and founder of Showpo, and recently host of Shark Tank Australia. She's going to talk to you about her journey of building a $100 million empire and what it takes to build a successful life. I hope you enjoy. Welcome, Jane.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Leaving the lucky last. It's the last episode of the Growth and Banter podcast for 2024.
That's right. You're going out with a bang.
That's it. So we've known each other, I reckon, since, about 2016. So quite some time.
Yeah.
Back in Cub days when you're doing your boardroom sessions there for Showpo. You've obviously built an amazing brand. Now it's a household name, of which is Showpo, into a $100 million empire. Not only that, you're now 2 seasons into Shark Tank. So a lot to discuss today, but I want to start off by sort of just getting your backstory and how you built Showpo into what it is today.
Oh, God. Okay.
Or maybe we start from this.
No, let's go.
Yeah, maybe we start from the inception of Showpo.
Yes. So, okay. I should have come more prepared. Sorry. Okay. So basically, I guess, I think I have to give you a bit of context of where I was in terms of how I got into it. So I used to be an accountant and I just hated my job. And then back then, I think that was just when people just started, maybe there were murmurs about like entrepreneurship. It was actually for me, like, an ex-boyfriend that talked about it. None of my friends wanted to do it. And then I had this one friend who was like, let's start a business. And I was like, okay, whatever. I don't care. I don't care what it is. Let's do it. I'm just like so excited to do anything, which isn't necessarily in the shorter term view, I would have been like, that's a terrible thing to have done. But now with a longer term view, I'm like, that's how you acquire the skills. That's how you learn from experience,
For
right?
sure.
So then it was her idea to run pop-up stores. And I was like, what do we know about fashion? What do we know about retail? Like, it seems like it's like a industry for the elites, for the eastern suburbs, richer women, like older, richer women, it's at the time it was like, brands that started were like the Sass and Bides. They have this amazing brand image where they started at the markets, but it's, it seemed absurd that I would be in the industry competing with a brand or like the Myers out there, And then anyway, so we're like running pop-up stores because I always say if you don't have a better idea, we're just going to go with the idea.
And that's how Culture King Simon Beard started. He was at schoolies and was selling, I think it was thongs or hats or something to schoolies.
Right.
It was footwear and hats to
stop
just like literally stalls down there in Queensland.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then but then basically I at some point quit my job to focus on it. And then I was like, this business should be online. And my business partner, basically I spent a month like building this website and then I showed it to her. And then, cause she was on holidays, long story, but like she came back, she's like, you know what? I'm sick of the startup life. I'm sick of being poor. She enjoyed her holiday too much. She's like, I don't want to be poor anymore. I've found a job. So as I quit my job for this business, she found a job. So all of a sudden, it's funny to think about it now because without her, I was like, I don't have the confidence to run a business by myself.
Yeah, it's tough at the start.
And I was like, that obviously means we have to shut the business down, which is what we did. But I begged her, I was like, please look at the website. I really think we've got something here. And we were essentially pivoting, but like, I didn't even know what that word meant in a business context, And so she refused to look at the website. And she said to me, she looked at me square in the eyes and she said, look, Jane, nobody shops online. And I was like...
Yeah, because you're way ahead of the curve. Like e-commerce now is saturated, but like way back then, like how long ago has it been since you started? It was Showpony initially, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then even, I always say this, the thing about trends is sometimes you might think like, at the time I was like, oh no, there's already ASOS. There's like other brands out there doing it. Thinking you're already late to the trend, but you probably don't realize how early you are. Like even like social media trends and, other...
So true.
Like CGI things, like all those little things that are happening, like especially when you get more into the industry, you get more experience, and you're seeing more, you will actually feel like you're more behind, but you're actually probably even more ahead. Yeah.
There was a stat, Meta Research last year, which was interesting, that I use a lot in our sort of consultations with our brands. And it's like a sort of a, progression from beginning, like people who are beginners with like digital media and social media, all the way through to people who consider themselves an advancer. And 35% of businesses that are SMEs in Australia are still in that beginner stage. And like social media and digital media has been around for 15 years now. So you're right. Like even though people, I've been in the space for 10, 15 years, you've been in the space for a long time, we feel probably seasoned, but most businesses are still adopting to get into it.
And you also don't realize, sometimes you're like your own harshest critic, right? You think we missed this trend. Oh, we're not doing this well. Like I was on the drive here, I was listening to a marketing podcast and they were like, brands like need to do more of this, more of that, like more storytelling, integrating editorial with storytelling. I'm like, we can do that better. We're not doing enough storytelling. I'm thinking of all the things we're not doing right. And they were like, like Showpo do it really well. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to give myself more of a pat on the back. Like I sent it to the team. I was like, being too harsh on my, you're your own worst critic.
You're literally giving yourself advice from someone talking about you in a case study.
I'm like, oh shit, that's great.
Maybe we can rewatch this and then give each other advice on what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
It's like that, but you forget. Like there's so much complication and saturation and just like, you often just need to be told or reminded what you already know, right?
Yeah.
But at what point did you know that, Showpo in its infancy, then scaling up, was going to become such a big juggernaut and household brand that it is today? Was there a certain moment that you're okay, we're onto something here?
Yeah, there's been milestones. I remember like when we made more in a day than my salary, like like gross sales, revenue. But still, you're like, wow. I remember like so
your whole yearly salary is just made in one day.
Made in one day. I remember my general manager and I went to Tetsuya, so it's like the most expensive restaurant at the time. We were like, oh my god, order whatever you want. That was cool. And then I remember, I think the moment that I decided to tell also part of my story, just running back, is the fact that when I quit my job, I was actually still living at home. I couldn't tell my parents because I had, they immigrated from China for me. So then sorry, this is going somewhere, but they basically like sacrificed everything. I went to the selective school that they wanted, went to the university, did the degree they wanted, did the KPMG cadetship they wanted. Even the salary I resigned for, over 1,000 people applied, 6 people got it. I was the only girl.
Wow.
Like it was a big thing to let go of it. And then I couldn't tell them that I resigned. So I was pretending to go to work for like the first, 6 months while living under their roof, and then like another year when I moved out. But like 6 months every day getting up to pretend to put my suit on. And the moment that I realized, I decided that I was going to tell them that I had actually officially quit my job, was when I looked at the warehouse and I had like $500,000 sitting in stock.
Wow.
And I'm like, worst case, I think I had such a fear of failure because I was like, worst case scenario, I'll just fire sale this product and I'll start a new business. And then that reassurance of like, I've successfully...
You've validated it.
Like I've changed the trajectory of my career. Like no way do I have to go back to accounting. No way do I have to do the post-accounting, like it's called the CA program. It's like more studying. I'm like, I never have to study again. I never have to read a book again. This is great. Like I was like, wow, I've actually been able to change the trajectory of my life. So that was a defining moment.
I can't believe you actually created it got to that point before even telling them. Like, how did you even keep that as a secret?
Yeah.
That's like a whole book in itself.
They're really gullible. I got away with a lot.
Sounds like it.
And then another moment was like when we first hired adults. I feel like adults with like families and kids who, if they leave a job, if the business goes, I think... When you're young, you're like, okay, let's give this a go. That sounds like a cool, fun business. But when you have a family, you don't really want to just like get made redundant by a business that's not successful. You follow a business that you genuinely believe in. So when we hired adults, I mean, I still don't feel like an adult, but when we
growing up's a trap, Jane. We never want to.
No, we've all got Peter Pan syndrome. I know.
100%.
I think owning our business is like definitely like sustaining, stretching it out. Like that continued Peter Pan syndrome, because now like you're like a kid in the candy store with like life and your whatever you do with work, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, you know, you're a mum now and you're still like, you know, juggling, running this business, you know, you're on Shark Tank season 2 now. So you're doing an amazing job of juggling it all and still, you know, going out and, you know, enjoying yourself and enjoying life. So hats off to you. But
I mean, when we have a big night, I'm like, all right, guys, got to call it. And I rarely call them. Got to call it because I'm going to be up in a few hours. You can sleep in, but I can't.
Yeah, you've sort of pushed past the point where your kids are just getting old enough where you can start enjoying yourself again. And you deem yourself the lazy CEO. And I think that's been like a really good brand image that you've built over the years that I think is like you've sort of, you know, you've really concreted. Where did that initially come from? Because clearly I've seen your journey like since literally like from 8 years ago when I first met you, and you are an absolute hustler. You're a content engine. You know, you're a walking PR machine. There's nothing lazy about it. But where did the term lazy CEO come from?
Well, honestly, it was I got onto Instagram super late, and I was like, oh, I think it's I remember using the Showpo Instagram, posting my personal stuff to it, like holiday with Waldy, you know, like not taking Instagram as a serious platform. Got onto
taking the piss on Instagram and social media,
just like. But then I'm like, it's probably time I get my own account. I'm like, oh well, Jane Lou's taken, and then I want to post this photo. I just call my friend. I'm like, what do you think? Like, and like, I want the something CEO, like. And I was just like, the lazy CEO, the party CEO? No, that's crazy. No, that's cringe. And I was just like, what can we do? I wanted something jarring. So that's literally how it happened. And now I'm filling in the gaps to how to kind of like, not justify it, but like why that brand makes so much sense is that, you know, if you love what you do, then it doesn't feel like you're working.
Yeah, true.
But also I really love this, I think it's Bill Gates' quote that if you wanted something done, I should really learn this quote.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, like if you think being lazy as a boss is better than trying to be too smart because you figure out a shortcut to the problem.
If you want an efficient way of doing something, give it to a lazy person.
Yes, that's right, because they'll find a quicker way to do it versus someone who will overcomplicate it and find a long way to do it because they're too meticulous.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've got to have a sense of naivety when starting a business, and clearly that was probably part of the process of, you know, making that huge decision of leaving that, you know, sounds like a really great role into something that was a bit unknown. And it's funny because like Pip Edwards, who I had on the podcast, she came from PwC. So she had a similar sort of accounting background, numbers, and gone creative. So you've sort of done a similar journey going from numbers to creative, which I think is quite fascinating, having that big leap. But yeah, going back on like the social media and I guess your personal brand, you know, I think positioning your authority in the space, and I think a lot of people look up to how you run the business, and that lazy CEO like sort of persona I think would help a lot, or would have helped a lot with recruitment, you know, people wanting to work with you, having like a fun environment to work in as well. But I remember even Facebook, when you're posting organically, when Facebook was an organic platform, not so much anymore, you use a lot of humor-driven content in your memes. Like, how did that come about? Because I know they used to get so much engagement even on Facebook when you were just posting nothing but humor. It wasn't even to do with the business. I think that was a really cool way to educate the market on who you guys are.
It honestly kind of happened by accident. I remember discovering my first meme. My friend lives on, like, it all happened around here actually. My friend lived on Oxford Street, and then we were going to go to the Cross, and we stopped by where I used to live on on Stanley Street. We're like, let's stop by for a pre-drink, and then he like showed me like my first meme, and it was like awkward. It was awkward penguin, and then we looked at like angry Asian dad, and then we ended up not going out and just looking at memes all night.
It's like getting stuck on reels now. Like, I'll go to bed and spend an hour on my reels. Like it's so addictive. And
then so I was like, oh, let's just like post. I'm like, I'm that person. I'm like, oh, this is, you know, I have this like, it's funny. Some people I'm like, why did you post this? I just have this urge to like post things, share things, you know, like, and so when I did my first post, I think the reach or the engagement would have been so much higher than a product post. And then it just kind of like kind of just grew from there. This is what I love about social media, like the instant gratification and the gamification side of it. Like you can just play around and see what happens.
Yeah. And it's like Red Bull don't post their products, but they post their experiences.
Yeah.
So you sort of chose that more humor, lighthearted meme journey to start with. And I remember, you used to get heaps, like thousands of likes, hundreds of comments just on a meme.
Yeah.
Didn't even have anything to do with the product.
Yeah.
Such a way.
Well, the thing is, you get those views now, but they don't lead to followers. Back in the days, you get followers from it. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's a shame that, I do miss the organic days of Facebook.
Yeah.
And then Instagram's starting to head that way now as well.
Yeah.
I guess TikTok's the new frontier when it comes to organic, isn't
TikTok
it?
is like,
it's annoying.
I still haven't cracked TikTok.
Yeah.
And it's just so, I felt like if it came out when I was younger, like back, the timing was so bad because like when we were just doing so much stupid content in the office, we were like putting it on YouTube and like putting it on, stories. It wasn't even like, Reels didn't exist back then.
No.
And then we go into...
I don't think videos even exist. It was just static imagery and like updates.
When TikTok blew up, we were at home and I was pregnant and like, it just wasn't the right... You could honestly, the right person being pregnant can do it really well, but like it felt I just wasn't in the right mindset. Also with COVID, thinking the world was going to end. Also, business was not going well during COVID for us. Like, unlike... for a lot of other online businesses, it wasn't for us. I'm like, the last thing I was going to do is like start dancing on TikTok. But that's the thing. It's like, you're never too late.
Yeah.
Back to what we were saying at the start, like even now, think about where you're going to look like in 5 years. You'd be like, no, that's still the right time.
Yeah. And you just got to keep up those trends and just move to that next platform. I have a belief, obviously, with what we do, which is like trying to help brands online, right? Like we have to be one step ahead. It's just things don't happen overnight, but they slowly will progress to where that audience moves to. And I think like the whole creation of Reels and that like creator economy, it's much harder to create content now than it used to be. You're talking about a meme that maybe had like a sentence on it or two, a bit of a joke, or a graphic. Now you got to like stitch different content together and get the subtitles.
We used to post 15 times a day, but it was just one photo.
Yeah, right.
Compared to like now, it's like the Reels.
You can't do that. Yeah, you can't just have imagery. Yeah, it's so funny. It's become more complicated. But I guess moving into, that style of business that you created, let's move into your culture, because I know you do have an amazing outlook on your culture. One of the best office warmings I think I've ever been to was your office in the city, and you had rosé on tap in the kitchen, and I think you've done.
I was on like someone's shoulders during the party and just pouring like Red Bull down everyone's throats.
That's when we had the Frisco and we used to go in between. And I think you've just done such an amazing job of building that culture with your business. And, that's something that shouldn't be taken lightly, because culture is the key to any great brand, and the people are what makes a great brand. But how did you sort of initially start building that fun environment for people to work, but not only work, like you're a serious company, but also balance it with, lots of events. And I know that you sort of document, a lot of your social events. And I know like Adam and Raquel do the same thing with their team, who was Elijah. Talk us through how that sort of became, the cornerstone to growing your team.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a puzzle, because I think at the start it was easy. It just came organically because you kind of want a company that, an environment that you love. And the thing that I really loved working corporate is the things that they've done.
It's like the opposite, right?
The accounting firms have to go so out of their way to make it interesting.
Yeah, true.
And I remember once we did this trivia night, and that was so fun. So that was one I remember I was pregnant and I hosted games night, and it was one of the funnest, like, lots of people will say that's like the funnest event we'll have all year, even more than at our Christmas party. We trashed Cub. That's the first time we did it, and I was like pregnant, so it's not just about drinking. It's just like fun.
What was it? Games night, was it?
Yeah, and then it's like, because then there's like a optional, like, everyone's in teams and they're integrating. So warehouses meeting the head office, everyone's getting to know each other, and then there's a bit of like a talent quest optional, not everyone wants to, and then like just trivia, like there's just, there's a bit of flip cup, that kind of stuff, but like it's you don't have to drink it, it's not pregnant. But anyway, my point is, at the very start it was really easy because you are hiring for your friends, and you're not meant to do that, but when you're a small business, you hire someone that you're working so closely with them, right?
Yeah,
so
because you're next to them literally every day.
yeah. So I mean, I remember even my bridesmaids, 3 of them were girls that I work with, and some of them weren't even working for me at the time. And so, but as you grow, you want a place that's really inclusive, and that's really important for me at Showpo. Yep. Like I want everyone to feel comfortable, like to sit around the lunch table and join whatever group. So I think building an inclusive culture is really important. And it's so, I mean, you do get the one bad egg sometimes, but I love that having a big group like this, mostly women, that there's no bitchiness.
Yeah. No political crap.
Exactly. And that's really amazing. And the thing that we are trying to balance is like, I think we're moving away from like, I think the hard juggle is sometimes people will be like, oh, we want to have like non-drinking events. Like first, and then we organize like Pilates. Yeah. 3 people show up. And I'm like, this is really annoying because I don't want to do Pilates, but I have to come to everything. So now I'm doing Pilates.
So you're there with 2 other people.
Who else is doing it? Like, did you guys like, like
so just stick to the drinking events.
But then the drinking events, you don't have to drink. There's just drinks there. So I'm like, I'm not sure what to.
It is a hard balance. Like we do the same thing. Like I don't want every event to be a drinking event, and like I practice that holistic sort of lifestyle and culture in our business. And we don't even stock the fridge with alcohol because we're there Monday to Thursday, and Friday we do remote. That might change when we are moving into a bigger space with another sort of JV set up next year. We might do the Fridays, in which case it might become that. But yeah, you're right. Like we've done, health and wellness events, and we've got a small team, and it only takes a few of us to be missing for it to not be an event.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing that you're trying to balance is like getting the content right, because people are like, oh, are you just doing this? Like, I feel like
you're doing it just for
you'll
content.
have the one bad egg who's like, oh, you're doing it for content. It's like, no, because we're doing influencer events. Yeah. And we're putting that content up. I feel like it's a good way to balance, to show that what we're doing for our staff, what we do for our customers, like to be holistic. Like I document everything, and I feel like you need to know what you're walking into. Like there's, I'm very open about that. And then also just like, that is how we build out the pipeline to brand ourselves as a great place to work.
That's your marketing strategy, right? Like, and of course, like if you're running an event, it should go both ways. Of course, you're doing it for the team, but it's a way to document how you guys are operating behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And like if people need to really understand what your story is, and that is your story. You've built that story, you've built that vibe, that culture, and I think that's why you've built such a strong community with your customers, because they obviously resonate with that, and they sort of look up to you, and they look up to your team, and they love seeing what you do. Yeah. Imagine pulling all that away and just showcasing your product. Like it would be very hard for new customers to resonate with you. Yeah, and I think the great way right now when people come into an interview, they kind of know, you can just say, oh, what you see is, what you see online, we're like fun like that, and we get shit done. Like you kind of like, they already know what they're walking into, which is nice. Yeah, that's cool. Well done. So now you're season 2 into Shark Tank. I've been watching it on TV, and you're doing a fantastic job. Oh, thank you. I don't know. Sometimes I haven't watched this season as much because I don't know why I cringed a bit more. I haven't watched all of them yet, but I did watch more of the season 1 than season 2. I don't really watch too much TV these days. Yeah. It's more Netflix, but yeah, I mean, like, talk us through, like, that, firstly, like, what an amazing achievement that is to be a shark and to get on that TV show amongst other, quite influential people. Obviously that was derived from America. I don't know how many seasons Australia's done, but I know it's been around for some time, and you've sort of gone through 2 seasons, so you're obviously doing something right. How's that experience been? Oh, it's just the best. I just can't even believe, like, I remember when I first got the email, the producer actually made a typo. She wrote Shark Tanks. I'm like, this is one of those fishing emails. You're swimming with sharks. Yeah, I'm like, and then anyway, I didn't think, I was like, surely not. There's already Shark Tank has been, the previous season got cancelled. That's right. Yeah, because there was a bit of a gap, wasn't there? Yeah. Never thought that would happen. And then since then, it's just been such an incredible ride. It's like filming is just so fun. It's intense. Like it's pretty scary at first, but I feel like when you get into the environment, after a few days, it becomes quite natural. Like I would definitely change my investment strategy, going
for the next season
Okay.
if we get renewed. So that'll be exciting. And just I think it's just opened so many doors, like the opportunities, the things that I'm doing.
Well,
it's
you're
just
sort
really
of a
cool.
TV celebrity now, right?
No,
So-
it's a bit. Well, I wouldn't say celebrity, but like it's cool. Yeah, it's a whole. It's yeah.
And
It's a cool
like
title.
when people are
Shock.
watching it on TV, I know that some of the pictures go for, I don't know, like how long, like 15 minutes on TV, but how long do they actually get filmed for before they edit it?
Go from like then average 45 minutes,
Okay.
but they've been like an hour and a half.
Wow.
And like I'm like trying. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, and I'm already out, and I'm like, God, this is like I
So you
don't.
got to keep listening to
But
them.
I'm like, no, this is a life-changing moment for that person. And they've been like
Yeah.
rehearsed, like they've been practicing, they've been building it up for weeks. I'm like, don't like stay with it, you know, bring your A game because they're bringing their A game. Yeah.
I bet you've seen some probably amazing pictures and also some shockers.
Yeah.
I mean, without obviously mentioning the brands, like what's been some really great pictures you've seen and potentially even some shockers that you've seen? We don't want to throw anyone on the bus here, but I'm sure there's been an amazing pitch that you're like, wow, this is really good.
I remember I just thought of a good story for one of the seemingly bad ones. There were these two guys, they had a toilet brush and I think they were heavily overstocked.
Right.
I'm not sure and then I think the product broke on TV, but they were
bummer.
so nice and likable. And I think, we were like laughing a lot during the pitch. I think all the sharks gave great advice, but I think from airing, their sales popped off.
Really?
So I'm like, that's
Yeah.
a really amazing story.
Yeah,
because not everyone's sales do.
Yeah.
But some people's really do.
Because some people, I feel like some brands go on just for the exposure, right? Like they don't
I
necessarily
reckon.
some even say like I don't even need the money. I'm just sort of here to sort of expose the brand. Like, it's like some people openly say that to you, don't they?
Yeah.
So like I think as a marketing,
Or they say
pitch,
like they can. Well, they say like you can kind of tell. I
or
don't
they
think
say that
openly
they
say
want
it,
your
but-
advice rather than they don't need the money sort of thing. Yeah. But yeah, that's been again like such a great experience for you, and then leveraging sort of like your journey with Showpo now into that. How has that impacted, I guess, Showpo as a business and your personal brand as well?
We definitely from a direct sales perspective, we were never expecting it to impact sales, but I think definitely saw an impact on like searches, like direct traffic and like sales. Since in Australia, we've had an uplift in Australia since then. That's been
great.
it's hard to say if it's been sustained. It's just been like growing since, but there was a definite jump, which is great.
That's what you want.
If they want to keep pumping up more marketing, that's great.
So you'll say yes to season 3 then, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
How good. And I guess speaking of like this year, because I know I spoke at we're sort of premium partners of Meta, because a lot of our client spend is still on Meta versus search, even though we are splitting it, between the two. But I did an SMB summit talk, and a part of it was like Q4 spending around this current period into 2025. The shifts to the economy from a retail spending point of view, and then obviously the influence of AI. Like, what do you think's been, the biggest shift with retail online this year? Because there has been a lot of stuff going on with the economy. Like, what do you feel has been an impact that you've seen potentially with some of the other brands you've been talking to on Shark Tank or even Showpo? Like, what's been the biggest shift this year?
It's been interesting. I feel like, I will say the biggest trend that's coming will be TikTok Shop.
Right.
That's what's coming.
And
This
what's TikTok
year-
Shop?
So I think basically it allows everyone to just kind of like, every creator can just be, right now with affiliate marketing, you have to go sign up, you have to get
Yeah.
approval. Like, it's like a whole process and it's through a third party. But TikTok does it so like, I think it's like a seamless process between the creator and a brand, and they just, if they make content, and the thing is, it can blow
Okay,
up, right?
yeah.
Like, they can get millions of views. So then you're not limited to even yourself as a business to find creators to, source that product. People who genuinely love your product, they can
Sell your products.
they can sell it,
And they get
you
commissions
can get
from it.
so rich, and you can like be a content creator. And that's the thing.
Wow.
It's like a lot of content creators, it's like you can get paid fees for product and you're hustling for it. But I feel like this way you can just stay at home. You can just make product based on what you like. It's like cutting out all the admin of like negotiating deals. And you can just, with a lot of creators, you're like, what's the natural step? Do you start your own brand? But like, do you
okay.
love creating content, or do
Interesting.
you want to do operations, admin, sales? Like you can just create content and focus on what you're good at. And I think that's just, that's a huge opportunity. It's a game changer. Like I swear to God, if I didn't already have a job and I was like 18,
if you didn't already have $100 million business.
Yeah. If I was 18, I'd be like doing that. I'm like, do I need to go to uni? Like, I mean, I would be like, that is sweet.
That's actually really interesting because, like, we've evolved from, influencers having lots of following on Facebook or Instagram, and then they get paid a truckload for one post. That's now diminished to now, sort of more the creator economy where people create content and the brand uses that content for the purpose of their own socials and ads. So that's what we call UGC, right? User-generated content. So this is taking that one step further. People that are good at creating content and showcasing products, they're getting paid to sell that online. That's massive. That means like you said, they don't even need to, because like that is the natural progression. If you build a big following, whether you're a health expert or a bikini model or whatever, you naturally have to then think about what is the business to leverage my following. So now you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
You could just shop around.
And how would Showpo sort of leverage that? You'd sort of just be gifting it out to lots of creators?
Yeah.
Or?
I mean, you would gift it, and then you would have also then, I guess, like even smaller creators who they can just start like posting product. We've had like people who've like genuinely bought our bridesmaid's dress and they've made a video and it's got millions of views, and they're like, oh, can I get a discount code for my audience? But instead now they can just like make money straight from that video. Like,
wow.
And then so
that's
I don't
crazy.
know. I mean, it's coming, so
I
can't say too. I don't know too much yet. I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah. When we're still, again, like the adoption of social media has been so slow. So the adoption of TikTok's even slower for businesses. I think it is very much still a creator economy versus like a brand economy.
Yeah.
But that's a really good one to look out for. Something that we might have to jump on as well.
And then trends for this year, I feel like, I mean, there's definitely like price rises all around.
Yeah, because retail, like with smaller businesses, retail across like some of the businesses we've sort of, been interviewing and consulting as well. Like we only bring on a certain type of client who's at a certain level, but seems to be there is a bit of struggle in retail this year with, new businesses or smaller brands. What's been some other shifts?
I think just like increased, I think like it's more important than ever for brands to just really niche down as well and just like own a certain space.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can really be niche and very global.
Yeah. So pick your like your specific lane. Yeah.
I say that like when I'm great at that, but like that's what I would advise everyone
else.
else.
It's so true though. If you're marketing to everyone, then you're marketing to no one, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and like a lot of the successful brands we know have a particular niche that they've absolutely nailed, and there's no reason why you can't diversify after proving that niche. Then you can start then diversifying to a certain extent after that. But yeah, you don't want to go out and have a brand that appeals to everybody, right? Yeah.
And another trend, I guess, it's like the customer, like moving away from, this is very specific to like, I guess more like beauty and fashion brands, that those industries that do a lot of like influencer events and trips, the move away into doing that with customers and involving customers more.
Okay. Yeah. So you're engaging that. Yeah. So a lot's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only going to get more complicated. Now we've got AI to deal with as well.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Are you guys doing much with automation, AI, and the business operations to sort of get efficiency?
There's AI in the customer support that helps. I think like, that website has whatever AI for like visual merchandising optimization, that kind of stuff. But like, did you see the job application that I got? Like someone just copy and pasted. It's like, okay, I'll write this in like a more eloquent
so they've copied it from ChatGPT.
Yeah. And then the whole thing, and they didn't even fill in the square brackets. And then even last week, I think my Waldy got a text message being like, oh yes, I'll write this message it's a professional manner.
Oh, no way.
And there was a text message. I'm like, oh my God. So that's definitely still happening.
So people are just not really utilizing it like they should.
Yeah, but even people on my team who write me things, I'm like, you've obviously put this in ChatGPT, which is fine, but that's so long. Just give me the bullet points. Just tell me the prompts you gave ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Or like, give me put it in bullet points.
Well, you can't just cut, copy, paste it. I think it's a tool that should be used to draw and extrapolate your own idea into more ideas.
They might still edit it, but it's just long-winded.
Yeah.
You know, I hate reading long-winded
It's the
things.
same as us. If we're purely cut, copy, pasting from ChatGPT on an ad, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
It sounds and looks like a robot. That will get smarter and smarter, but the way that I think any business should be looking at AI to increase efficiencies, extrapolate ideas is to continue to prompt it in a manner that will then get you the outcome, not just like, hey, ask a question and copy and paste it. But I think like with any tool, it still requires that human touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can't. It's like running an ad. It's like anyone can run an ad, but to be able to do it properly, or anyone can build a brand, but to do it properly requires that creativity from a human touch still, right?
It's just meant to get the ball rolling. It's meant to if you're doing something to make sure you've covered. It's meant to save time researching.
Yeah.
Not to do the final product. But I've got a really great hack for anyone who has kids.
Let's hear it.
With using ChatGPT. So you get to an age where they're like, "Mommy, tell me a story about Iron Man." And you're like, "Oh," but you go, "ChatGPT, tell me a story about Spider Loki." That's my son's name, Loki, and Iron Man and Super Mummy, and then chuck a few of his friends in, like and Oslo and Mia. Like you just, and then it's an amazing. And then you go, and then make the story. The theme of it is about outsmarting the bad guys. That brains are more important than bronze. Or you go, kindness wins overall. Like you put in the theme, you put in anything you want, and it just gives you this amazing story. Because like trying to think of a story to tell a kid is not that easy.
I wouldn't know where to start.
No, yeah.
How good. That's a good one. So for all the mums and dads out there,
yes,
use ChatGPT.
Oh, it's a game changer.
How good. It's not just used for businesses, right?
Yeah.
But I think like a key thing there for AI is like it's AI is not going to necessarily replace people's jobs, but those who wrangle it will. Those who are really good at using that system, whether it is advertising or using a particular software, that's just another tool that people can use. And those that are actually mastering it, that will be where, jobs will get replaced from the people that can actually wrangle it.
Yeah. And I think there's so much like people just dropping the word AI with no context. Yeah. It's like.
It's a buzzword.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That frustrates me.
Oh, me too. Big time. So I guess with all the successes you've had, all the journey from, going from a secret business to then a public business, or now it's private but public to your parents, and then Shark Tank. What's been, do you think, the hardest challenge that you've faced over the years? Aside from keeping the business a secret to your parents.
That was the first one.
That sounds hard.
The second one was probably like when the second biggest, hardest part was when like I realized Showpo was taken because we were growing so much in the US, and then like just thinking like at that time that's all I had built. Like yes, there's some stock, but your entire brand and goodwill is in that name, which is. Sorry, we used to be called Showpo.
And is that why you had to change the name?
But yeah, that's why we changed to Showpo.
Okay, right.
But that was like a long time ago. But I think the most recent tough time was probably like, and I hate to talk about COVID, but I think it's the fact that
fair
like
enough.
Before COVID, my risk profile. Oh, sorry. Before COVID, my risk profile was really high, and then there were no risks. It seemed like there were no risks in the business. We were growing, we were flying, everything was great, and I was just like having a great time. Cut to like during COVID, all of a sudden the risks in the business like were so clear and high for every business, and then because my risk profile came right down because I was like now like having a family, just I was pregnant, and then I was like, God, I looked at things a bit more differently. And then also then being cut off from the office environment, which I loved. So
the culture's gone then?
The culture's gone. We had some bad eggs in the business as well, which made it really tough, I think, which it's hard to fix when you're not in the same office as well.
For sure.
Like virtually you're like, oh, you think there is, like that didn't help. And then just, I think having a bit of like an identity crisis, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, who am I? Like,
who am I?
I'm like worried about it's like I was a whole different person. I was like worried about the business, pregnant, couldn't drink and like at least let off some steam. Like not really seeing friends. I'm such a social person. Yeah. And I was just like, ugh.
The whole life got ripped underneath you.
Like, what am I doing? But, like I think the good thing that came out of it is like most businesses did well out of COVID, online businesses, we made some other bad mistakes that layered on top of that. So it was like poor timing. And then so we got ourselves into a terrible like discount cycle because we had bad stock. Then you had to discount that. And then, and then people started expecting discounts.
Right.
And then so it took time to get ourselves out of that cycle. Like even this Black Friday, we didn't go too heavy because we don't need to, which is good. And so that took a lot of time. But that whole experience made us make the business more robust. And then massively like cut the fat, improved our margins. So even like right now when the economy is seemingly slowing down or whatever, we're still able to we're quite robust despite that. Yeah. And I think it's because we did the hard yards, the very hard yards
For sure.
a few years ago.
Yeah. And you can't really have a business at your size and your age without having some adversity. I think it's part and parcel, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember when we're still fundamentally a nimble agency, but I remember like the first few 3 to 5 years, I was like, this is pretty smooth, not much is going wrong.
Yeah.
And then so it was like post-COVID for us was the hit because we had a lot of like support, there was less tax we were paying. There was, there was a more customers were coming to us because they needed to market online. We're all about digital marketing, right? So, we're working from home. There was less overheads. We had tax relief, and then that gave us a false sense of, I guess, P&L. And then the next year, then we go, cool, let's invest into an office and do a fit out and hire. And then 12 months later, it was like chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of businesses felt that shockwave as well that did get the support.
Right.
Then they had a false sense of security.
Yeah, lots of businesses became overstocked after that because they bought for
That's
COVID
right.
volumes.
Yeah. So it can work on both sides. Like those that did really well ended up feeling the shockwave later on.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a funny time since 2020, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And I can't believe that's 4 years ago. It's nuts. But yeah, I guess now you're a mum.
Yeah.
Mum of two. And Waldy, your husband and also CFO.
CFO and general manager.
How good. And the fact to be able to work together, that's so
really
amazing.
Good.
I love seeing power couples being able to sort of drive, one brand together.
Yeah.
And, moving into your beautiful home overlooking the harbour, which I got the opportunity to see recently after the Cover Awards. And how's family life? For you right now, and how's it all going with the house and balancing it all again?
It's good. I feel like we're just coming out of the baby phase, so things are about to get really easy. Like sometimes, like even last night, we just had Lockie because my mum took Rosie. I'm like, oh my God, it's easy with one child, and it's easy with one child that's 4. So I feel like we're entering we're out of the woods with the hard part, the hardest part. But I think what works really well, when I tell people that I work with my husband, most people say, oh, I can't work with my partner. There's no way. Really? And that's exactly what I used to say. I'm like, even now, Waldy and I look at problems so differently. I go bottom up, he goes top down. I start brainstorming. So the way I think is I'm like, okay, let's just throw a bunch of darts. Whatever we're thinking, let's put it out there. And then we'll look for the commonalities. We'll join it up. And then we'll try and go, okay, how does this all connect? What is what's the problem with, I'll want to get everything out and then try and think of.
So you brain dump and then you consolidate.
He's like, okay, what's the problem we're trying to think of? And then he'll be like, that's not the way you think about it. I'm like, just let me think. And we're still honestly at the point where instead of embracing how we think differently and that being like, that's the perfect way to approach it, I still get frustrated with him. I say we, probably doesn't get that.
Who doesn't with their partner?
Yeah. But I think the best thing about working with each other is the fact that he's not a workaholic, but he just loves work. He just genuinely loves, his favorite thing about Showpo is just all the problems that, solving problems, right? And having that direct impact. And, he's not working for another company where he puts in his findings. He can just have an idea and do it. He loves that.
So he's got that autonomy and skin in the game now with it. Yeah. And
then he jokes that, I'm just really good at getting women into clothes. But anyway, my point is the fact that back when he used to work for other companies, he worked at Macquarie Bank.
Okay.
I remember a day when he worked till 8 a.m. He came home at 8 a.m. and he went back to work at 9 a.m.
What's the point of him coming home?
I know. So I think he showered and had a nap.
Oh my God.
It's crazy, right? And then at that point, and even when he would work really hard for other companies, I would be like, that would be frustrating, you know? And also when he worked for like a private equity company, and they used to they built like a multi-billion data center and like wind farm. And I'm like, that's so boring to talk about. And I feel like we have to talk about your work, to be fair. So I pretend I can, like, I don't want to talk about this.
You don't want to come home and listen to a boring work story from something you don't care about.
A data center, yeah. And then so now it's like we have common problems. If he goes, I just need to do this thing for work. If it was for some other company, I'd be like, oh, that's so annoying. But then he's like, oh, do you want to get this done? I'm like, oh yeah, run along, please do it, my dear. So it works really well. And also like our love languages are, mine is acts of service, and his is quality time.
Okay.
So it's a really good trade-off.
So you guys are literally yin and yang.
Yeah.
So good. I mean, I've only met him a couple of times. He seems like an absolute legend. I'm keen to get to know him more. It's funny. I saw on your socials with your house, and he's got the tinny, and you're like, I wasn't expecting this to be our boat experience.
No, yeah.
You got the life jackets in the tinny with the Yamaha 15 horsepower.
Yeah. It's I feel bad for everyone else who has to look at it. Who bought a nice house with a nice view.
And you got a little tinny out the front.
Yeah.
So good. That's humble though.
Yeah.
Now, I guess like advice you would give, there's a lot of people out there looking to start, a business. Again, Shark Tank exposure. You've probably seen a lot of new ideas, and also, businesses that are seasoned and are looking to sort of get that leg up and grow. And scaling is one thing, let alone starting a business. If you were to sort of give advice to someone who looks up to you, is following your journey, advice like if they want to start their e-commerce brand or some sort of retail brand, what advice would you give them?
That it's okay to start with an okay business, because I definitely started with like an okay business, and then that's where I learnt everything. It's better to, because you could spend so long going down like YouTube holes or like TikTok holes just learning, or like doing courses. Trying to perfect it, trying to draft up a plan, waiting for the right product to come. But if you just start, I think that's where you'll learn. And if you don't overinvest at the start, and just make sure you leave enough money and keep working so you can keep the money rolling into like... Yeah, don't quit your job straight away. Yeah, you don't do what I did, that's for sure. Don't hide it from your parents for a year and a half. Yeah, probably not. But stay at home for the free rent if you've got it while you start a business. But I just have a go. But the best advice that I've received that could be because I don't want to just be like, just do it. That is my advice, but it's cliched. Waldy used to tell me, you're not special. Because basically I would be like, I'd complain like, oh, public speaking is too hard. This business challenge is too hard. When I was trying to get my license, I'm like, oh, I can't drive manual. It's too hard. And he's like, half the people in Europe drive manual. Or most of Europe drives manual. You think you're so special that you can't physically drive manual, like you physically can't do public speaking, and like you don't think other businesses have overcome this problem before. Like you're just like having a whinge, you're wasting time, just do it. Yeah, so it's okay to be average, and I think like public speaking firstly is like probably one of the most common biggest fears that people have, right? Yeah, like it really is. And I worked in events. I was a marketing manager for literally coaches who did public speaking, like multi-stage, like physical events. Not even, I don't think there was webinars even back then. They were just starting to introduce webinars and virtual events. And I was shocking at public speaking. Could not do it. Like I'd just read off my notes in uni, or I'd get someone else to do it. And then I got exposed to that event sort of circuit, multi-stage events and, big promotions. And then, I remember when I started the business, I got invited on because we had a lot of clients who came from that experience I had that were coaches that would then invite me on stage to do like a keynote on social media or Facebook ads. And first time I did it was like fucking the scariest thing ever. But you just like over time it becomes the norm, So it's like practice makes perfect with anything. So when I first, my first we had, year 7 orientation camp, which is when you go away on camp at the very start of school and you meet everyone for the first time. You're meant to do like a talent quest. So we did this like skit and I had like 2 lines and no one laughed and I lost my entire, and I was like, that's when I had a fear of public speaking. Never went for tried for debating or public speaking at school, never made a speech at school. And then when I first started my business, I think Sunrise asked me to go on as part of like a group
Live
of
TV.
entrepreneurs. And then they asked me one question and I was like, and I was shitting myself so bad. And then that's when I was like, you know what? I need to work myself up. So I can, recently with Shark Tank, I've gone on like live TV and I'm like I'm like nervous in the lead up, but I'm not losing sleep the night before.
Yeah.
Whereas like, so I think in my head, I was like, I know that there'll be more opportunities and there'll be big opportunities that come up.
For sure.
I want to have so much practice that I can be as not nervous as possible when they come up.
Yeah. I remember I did the Today Show during COVID. I was at home talking about, it was the privacy first world and cookieless world privacy breach. And I didn't know a lot of the questions that they were going to present me with. So I had to do some research, ask my team, and live TV is pretty scary.
Yeah.
That's like even like virtually jumping on a Zoom and doing it live is pretty scary. But yeah, you make do when you have to, right? And I think if you can work well under pressure, then everything will be okay.
Yeah, makes diamonds. Or something
that's
like that.
it, 100%. I guess a bit of a curveball here and putting you on the spot. But if you were to start a new business tomorrow in any industry, and now sort of, I guess, seeing a lot of cool products and ideas in Shark Tank, what would it be?
Oh, honestly, I think I want to just I would want to start a business with I think I want to do kids' clothes or something.
Yeah, right.
Like something that's fun and not too, I probably
I mean, Showpo's fun.
Yeah, oh no. Still, I that's the thing. It's fun. But, I think it's
So kids'
still,
clothing.
I wouldn't start competing another fashion brand. But I think something that's still fashion. I like what I love about Showpo. It's the constant new arrivals. I love how big beauty brands can. I feel like there's been so many successful beauty brands. Like we know so many together. I mean, but it's just having you. It's in terms
The
of
excitement
content
and the change.
you have to keep making content about the same stuff. Whereas the great thing is that I love the constant new product. So I'm thinking
you're like me. I don't like monotonous and sort of like that same thing over and over again. Which is why I guess marketing is, keeping me sort of excited that we get to work with different brands and new ideas and new trends and, marketing shifts. But I understand what you're saying. Like you get your new drops and the fashion constantly changes, right?
Yeah, and then if you have one bad product launch, that's okay. You got more coming. You can just keep throwing more darts out, and something will land.
We even got some merch done, and I picked it up today. It was just shirts and hats, and that was exciting. I was like, this is actually really cool.
Yeah.
So I can understand that feeling. That's awesome. So you'll be staying in fashion, but it'll be more in kids range now that you're a mum.
Yeah. Well, I just find I can't find great kids clothes. So.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Apparently it's because of it's cost the same to produce, but the prices are lower and the textiling. So I think it's harder with margins, right?
Yeah.
That's probably why there's not a huge amount of kids companies out there, but would make sense. I think that's a Showpo V2 for kids wear.
Watch the space.
Yeah, watch this
Not
space.
anytime soon. Absolutely not.
But you got enough on your hands.
Exactly.
What does the next 3 to 5 years look like for you?
Oh God, I don't know.
Is there a plan there, or are you sort of just winging it?
Winging it? I've been
Wouldn't
winging
have
it
been
my
called
whole
winging it.
life.
You've already built something that you don't need to wing, but is there a structure in place for the next 3 to 5 years?
I think we're going to spend some time this break to think about that. There's things do we want to have another kid? We're just coming out of, are we, do I even, do I even like kids that much? Kids, sorry. Babies.
Yeah.
And then what do we want to, where do we see the business in the 5 years? You're so caught in the day to day and sometimes you can be you can get emotional with business if you're having a really good day, if you're having a really bad day.
It's a roller coaster.
Where you want it to go. And so I feel like in the break will be a kind of neutral time period to slow down and really think about what we want. And
Reset.
Yeah, and reset. But I mean, I'd be happy just to keep doing what I'm doing now, to be honest.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Don't change.
And just enjoying that sweet spot. I appreciate this sweet spot in life when you're still feeling, you're still young, And then like parents are healthy, which is like, so fortunate. Everyone is like just the kids, it's like that sweet spot where you can just enjoy life.
Goldilocks moment.
Maybe just enjoy it.
Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Now, like I guess the reliance on other people, no one is truly independent when they run their own business, even though we like to think so. Who's been some key figures or mentors or people around you that you've supported yourself to sort of get you to where you are today? And I'm sure that's probably evolved over time, but yeah, who's some people that you reach out to, of course, aside from yourself and Waldy and your team? Is there any people external that you have from an advisory level or, even from a, health point of view, whatever?
Yeah.
Like, who do you sort of look to?
At one point I joined like entrepreneurs organization, and we had like a pretty cool group there. Like we had like Jeremy Levitt from Service Seeking, who was like an advisor for many years, like guys from Harris Farm. Like we had, it was a really good group. It was Harris, Harris Farms, Pet Circle, Cocoa Republic, Cracker Wine, Pure Profile, and then Service Seeking, like really
That's
amazing
a good crowd.
So that really helped me for like those years. We kind of like disbanded, but anyway, like a band that disbanded. But then like, I feel like the good thing, and then I joined YPO, which is like the next level one. But I feel like I didn't need to, because I'm in a place where I have a Rolodex in a way that if I need help, I can call people for help.
Yeah.
And I know enough people to then go, oh, do you know someone that can help with this? But I really advise anyone who doesn't to join like groups like Cub. Cub and Boa run the events, a lot of the events for us, which is amazing. And that's honestly, we have that because at the start, it was 20 of us. We were having dinner. We had dinner together and we were like, oh my God, we got so much out of having that support, talking about the same things. This is over, it was 10 years ago exactly. Just having that support. So it was just I think it's so important to find people that you can speak to. I was lucky enough to also have a really good team of seniors that I could rely on. But and
people should know, like watching or listening, like you need to be able to put your hand up. Like I see so many people that try and start their business and they're literally just waiting for it to come to their lap. I'm just like, you got to understand, like you got to seek help and advice and like look at other people that have done it before. And it's definitely like you got to fail fast and continue to just get up and move on with it.
Yeah.
I see so many people just try to set up their business and then they just sit there and wait. I'm just like, go out and do something, like action first, fail, learn, repeat. And then when you get to a point where you don't know what to do, and every stage of business gets to that point, then you got to be able to put your hand up and seek the right help.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly how I use Cub, right? If I do need assistance at any point or advice, or I need a connection, if it's not in my immediate network, then I'll go to someone who knows X, Y, Z, and I'll be able to get that answer pretty quickly because it's like 1 degree separation in those communities.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I guess like. I sort of get a good idea already of your lifestyle and work-life balance, but what are some things that maybe people don't know that you like to do outside of work and you're socializing? Is there any sort of hobbies that you sort of...
Oh my God, I watch so much TV.
Do you?
Like I probably watch like at least an hour of TV going to bed every night.
Yeah.
And then as much on like, yeah.
It's a good way to switch off. Where I do that a lot, like particularly movies, to try and like get my mind switched off from the day to day.
And sometimes I just want to play like really dumb, like the best enjoyment is having a glass of wine and then having a good TV show on that's not too, you don't have to concentrate on.
Yes.
And then playing it like a game on your phone, like a really dumb one as well.
It's like 3 in 1. It's like wine, games on phone, and then TV in the background.
Yeah, and that's why I love planes, because you're watching like a movie that you would never like. Because you have a limited amount of movies you watch.
Yeah.
You're like, fine, I'm watching King Kong. Fine.
Yeah, true.
And then like you're playing your phone and then you just go beep and someone brings you wine. It's like, that's the best. Yeah, that's my hobby, just flying on planes.
Yeah.
No. What do I do? I think that's the thing. I don't really have hobbies.
Yeah. Your life is a hobby.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing.
That's why I was like, when I was asking that, like you're already busy enough, and I sort of, your lifestyle is already it's a blend, right?
Yeah,
Your
well, this
work
is
and
where the
life.
lazy, like not working thing comes from, right? I remember like years ago, I'm like I'm with my in-laws and they're all like reading a magazine or newspaper or book for their entertainment. And I'm on like Pinterest looking for inspo and they're like, oh, like, I don't know, someone made a comment about being on my phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm working. I'm the only person that's working right now. I didn't say it to them, but I just thought it to myself. But, you know, that's
true. Like a lot of the times when I'm on my phone, I'm actually doing market research.
Yeah.
I'm like, what competitors are doing? Like, I'm not even thinking that I'm doing that, but I actually am. I'm saving posts, and half the other time I'm probably deep on reels, getting stuck in the algorithm.
I think if you're on stories, then you're seeing what your friend's doing,
Yes.
and that's which I don't really do.
It's a great way to keep on track on what everyone's doing. Like otherwise, you just don't really like people don't call each other as much as probably what they used to now, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that frightens me. Someone calls, I'm like, what's wrong? What's happened?
You think you're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's so true. Great insight. And I think, look, you don't need hobbies when you're living a life like you do. Last but not least, retrospectively, and you've probably answered this already, but if you could wind back the clock and ask yourself, or maybe give yourself advice, let's say, for instance, Jane Liu at 18, what advice would you give yourself?
That definitely, like, people don't think about you as much as you think they do. Like, people don't care.
They're thinking about themselves more.
Exactly. Everyone's the center of their own universe. And so just, like, don't worry too much about what other people think. And if someone has, like, how someone behaves to you is probably more due to what they're going through themselves. So don't worry and just do it. Don't worry
about what other people think.
Don't be afraid of doing things because you're worried about what other people think, especially.
Yeah. And if you fuck up, just get over it. You know, time passes.
Yeah. Like starting a business, I feel like the biggest naysayers who are like, oh, what are you doing? Some of those people have come to me for advice afterwards. And I think they were saying like, oh, what are you doing? Because you're doing what they're afraid of.
Yeah. That's so true.
And so that it's you doing it makes them think like, oh, why aren't I doing it?
Yeah. It's like what's the saying? It's like, do it and ask for forgiveness later. It's like action first. So true. Well, it's been a great session. Appreciate you coming on. Obviously, you had me on, so we've traded podcasts now.
Yeah,
so
Pod
swap, that's exactly right. And I'm looking forward to whatever the next collaboration is going to be between us.
Yeah, exactly.
But look, congratulations on all the success. Obviously, well done on season 2 of Shark Tank. And it's been amazing just to see your incredible journey transpire into what it is today. And I wish you all the best in the next 3 to 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, and let me know how your planning goes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Thanks, Jane.